This is Phineas Gage. Ever since he survived a rod piercing his skull, the study of brain damage has forever been in his debt. One fascinating study of the human brain and its injuries is in the comparison of young children with brain injuries and adults who develop similar injuries. Children with perinatal brain injuries show remarkable plasticity for language compared to adults with comparable injuries. This is related to the fact that the developing nervous system is reliant on input to construct its processing networks. When lesions affect classic language areas, this input sensitivities enables the language functions of children with early lesions to utilise alternative neural pathways to support language abilities that are similar in terms of the level of functioning as the language abilities of typically developing children. This study from Mind, Brain and Education compares the growth of higher order reasoning and development trajectories in typically developing children and children with brain injuries among different environments. As children develop language, they also develop reasoning skills, particularly their ability to use language to reason about and express relationships. A child who describes, "A tornado is like a mean monster," is manipulating ideas in language, drawing comparisons, making inferences, abstracting beyond the current environment, and recognizing relationships between representations. This language reflects the cognitive processes through which reasoners manipulate information and rearrange or extend knowledge in novel ways. Not all children acquire higher order thinking skills or the ability to use them in language using relational talk along the same trajectory. There is marked variability among typically developing children in the acquisition of these skills, as well as differences among children with specific language impairments. Prior research has shown that children with prenatal or perinatal unilateral brain injury have deficits in cognitive functions such as attention, complex linguistic skills, and reasoning. The authors conceptualize higher order thinking talk as the cognitive ability to linguistically construct an explicit reference to inference, comparison, abstraction, and hierarchy. Research suggests that acquiring terms such as like enables children to make different kinds of relational statements, such as comparisons. Language may have the unique feature of supporting specific higher order representations and may be instrumental for the development of sophisticated higher order thinking skills. As mentioned earlier, plasticity for language helps children with brain injuries to continue developing. However, children with brain injuries often display delays in their language development, as well as more marked differences for particularly challenging language skills, such as narrative and complex sentence structure. Previous work suggests that complex language is not a prerequisite for complex reasoning, leaving open the possibility that deficits in brain injury children's language abilities might not necessarily carry over to deficits in higher order thinking talk. Children begin to use language to express higher order thinking talk around the second year of life, but their relational reasoning skills are still developing at this point. They tend to more easily, or preferentially, draw correspondences across representations that derive from the appearance or object-level similarities. Income-based disparities have been observed in many aspects of early language, such as vocabulary size, for both typically developing and children with brain injuries. The children in the sample displayed one of the two types of lesions, PV lesions or CI. There were 3 research questions. 1. Does the growth of surface and structure higher order thinking talk differ for typically developing and brain injury children between 14 and 58 months of age? 2. Are there different developmental trajectories for surface or structural higher order thinking talk by type of brain injury? And 3. Does family income play a similar role for brain injury and typically developing children? Typically developing children produce more surface and structure higher order thinking talk and grow more quickly in their use of both types of talks than children with brain injury. No differences were found in the amount of higher order thinking talk produced between children with smaller and earlier occurring brain injuries that primarily affect white matter and typically developing children regarding the use of talk. Children with larger and later occurring brain injuries that primarily affect grey matter show later emergence and shallower growth of higher order thinking talk. Family income influences the use of surface and structure higher order thinking talk in both categories of children. Because of the difficulty that brain injury children face in producing higher order thinking talk, regardless of the underlying mechanism, this is likely to negatively impact their school readiness and early academic achievement. This will require education systems to continue to deliver an individualised learning progression for students so that brain injury children can develop to their potential. While education systems find one-size-fits-all approaches easier to deliver, this study demonstrates why it is less than ideal. An education system can deliver consideration for a child's background, learning needs, and their potential is more ideal. Much credit to all of the sources and authors from which I've reported on their work. For further information, please feel free to leave a note in the comments. If you found this video helpful or informative, please hit the like button. If you want to see more videos on education and neuroscience, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.